listening to Your Secret is Safe with Me, non-judgmental talk about infidelity with Dr. Marie Murphy. If you're looking for new perspectives on complicated relationship issues, you've come to the right place.
Days go by, they're crawling by.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Marie Murphy. This podcast is all about expanding the conversation around infidelity. I'm a relationship coach, and I specialize in helping people who are dealing with infidelity make decisions about how to move forward that are truly right for them. On this show, we feature tools and guidance from my coaching practice, as well as advice from other professionals whose work pertains to the sometimes complicated business of human romantic relationships. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with Idit Sharoni. Idit is a licensed marriage and family therapist specializing in couples therapy and affair recovery based in Miami, Florida. Her passion is helping committed couples save their marriages in the most effective way possible. Idit spent the last decade helping couples transform their relationships through her couples counseling and affair recovery programs. Idit and her team of experts strongly believe that venting sessions are ineffective with couples. And as a result, they offer structured couples therapy programs with assessments, tools, and progress evaluations. In her highly successful affair recovery program, Idit offers couples an 8-week roadmap to healing through coaching sessions combined with an online course. Idit is also the host of the highly rated podcast, Relationships Uncomplicated, which has over 350,000 downloads. Each podcast episode is dedicated to discussing and providing actionable solutions to help listeners make their relationships work, heal from infidelity, and communicate better. You can find Idit's podcast and more information about her at www.iditsharoni.com, and that's spelled IDITSHARONI. All right, before we get to our conversation, this episode is brought to you by me, Marie Murphy, PhD. I provide shame-free, blame-free, non-judgmental relationship coaching. You can talk to me about the things that seem too messy or weird or stigmatized to share with your best friend or your spouse or even your therapist, including but not limited to matters related to infidelity. To learn more about my work or to schedule an introductory coaching session, go to mariemurphyphd.com. Hi, Idit. It's great to talk with you today.
Hi, Marie. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. I'm really excited to talk to you today.
Awesome. Well, let's get started by you telling us a little bit more about what you do and about your framework for helping couples recover from infidelity.
So I've been in private practice as a licensed marriage and family therapist for about 10 years now. And so half of my practice is couples therapy, pure couples therapy as you might know it. The other half of my practice is dedicated to couples that want to heal after infidelity. And for them, we supply a little different, maybe a different product, not exactly therapy, but more of a structured program that I've been working on and testing with my couples for over the years, and realizing that couples in the aftermath of infidelity definitely need a roadmap. That's the best words that I could find. And so I mostly worked on this roadmap, perfected it and until I actually created a whole program out of it. So that's the other half of me.
That's amazing. Tell us
Thank
more
you.
about what this roadmap looks like.
So this roadmap started basically when I had, I think, one of my first sessions with in a couple in the aftermath of infidelity. And they actually helped me think like that because they came to me telling me about an affair that happened in their relationship. And the next appointment, only the husband came back. The wife did not come back.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him, what's going on? Why isn't she coming? And he said that she actually wanted a roadmap. And in our first session, she actually asked me And then I remembered she asked me, I need someone to tell me where to go. I am so overwhelmed by everything that's happening.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm on a roller coaster. I don't know how to get off. I don't know what to do. I have moments where I feel okay, and then moments where I'm on the floor crying. Tell me if you have a roadmap.
Yeah.
Back then, I didn't realize, when you go to therapy school, they teach you not to have a roadmap, actually to, go with your clients wherever they are. And so that's what I sold her, and I said, this is not school. It's not like we have a pre-planned lessons or anything like that. I'll go with you wherever you need, but that's not what this woman needed. And very quickly I understood, okay, you need to start a roadmap. And so I got trained in different affair recovery programs with the Gottman Institute, with Esther Perel, with Michelle Winter Davis. I mean, there are probably a lot more names that I can name here, but these are the main people that influenced my work and came together with a plan that really, really helps people throughout 3 main phases of healing.
Can I pause you real quick and ask a question?
Of course.
So I'm guessing that in this instance, the woman is not the party who had the affair. It was her husband who had the affair. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so
Sorry.
she's the one experiencing confusion and hurt feelings and grief and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, great.
Right.
And she wants to know, like, what, if I invest in trying to make my relationship better, if I invest in the affair process, what's going to happen? What can I expect?
Exactly. And I'll tell you more. I mean, it's true that the husband did come back, but I immediately learned that I need to give him a roadmap as well. I see it as a 2-people crisis. It's not only the hurt partner's crisis. Definitely they are in, maybe their crisis is, more intense, but it's not just them. So I handle those cases where I basically looking at it from point of view of these 2 people that are in front of me are both in crisis, and I have to help both of them. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm sure you see this all the time, but in our society, there's so much blame placed upon the party who cheats a lot of the time. And often their emotional needs and their experience isn't given as much credence as the party's needs, as the person who's been cheated on.
Yes, absolutely. And that's absolutely true. Definitely a lot of shame on the partner that had been unfaithful. And I know that you probably have a lot of, insight on that.
Oh, yeah.
And but definitely also a lot of shame towards the person that stays.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is also, one of the things that informed me when I created this program, the shaming. And this is why my program is called It's Okay to Stay.
Oh, I
Because
love
for
it.
so many people, it's not okay to stay.
Yeah.
And my own friends told me, how can you help someone stay after infidelity? What are you, crazy?
Right.
Who stays, right?
Right.
So definitely this is something that I'm very sensitive about. Any couple that decided to stay, they either don't share it with anyone that there has been infidelity. And if they do, most um, most frequently they are going to be met with, people that are doubting why would they want to stay after something like that.
Yeah. That I see that too. And I also see a couple of other things. One is like, oh my God, you're contagious. Like, I don't want to consider the possibility that infidelity could occur in my relationship.
Mhm.
So I'm going to kind of like step away from you as if you've got cooties,
Oh my God.
or outright judgment. Just like, how could you have done that? How could you have stayed with anyone who did that? Blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
And
Oh,
all of these things can be really hard to deal with in their own ways.
Right. And so couples many times stay very lonely inside of this crisis.
Hmm.
They feel like if I'm going to share that with a close family member, they're going to be so protective of me
Right.
and quite often very judgmental.
Right.
And so they are, kind of stuck with this information. Do I share with someone close to me? Do I not share? And then often they're not going to share and are going to be very lonely. And the only person they can talk to about this is either their therapist, if they have one,
Hmm.
or their spouse. And that is not always possible. So
Right.
it's a
Right.
very
Absolutely.
tricky.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you hear this all the time, but when people come to me and confide in me, it's just like, thank God I finally have someone to talk to about
Oh
this.
my God. Yes. I mean, I see probably our work as me seeing, London after the Blitz, the relationship is being completely broken.
Yeah.
And you probably get to see more of Venice on a sunny day.
Not exactly.
No?
Not so
So
much. I mean, there are
tell me,
hints of
what do
that.
you see?
But it's usually, well, I mean, people who come to me when they're cheating on their partner and haven't told their partner yet and are just freaked out about the whole thing. I mean, there is an element of like, what I'm doing is amazing in some ways, but they often feel really conflicted about what's going on and they don't know what
Mm,
to do with all of these various flavors of conflict. And so they feel terrible. And actually, one of the things that I help people do is recognize that even if you feel bad about what you're doing, it's important to recognize what you're also getting out of what you're doing and what's wonderful about the affair or the illicit
mm,
relationship. Because if you can't be honest with yourself about that, A, there's no way you're going to be able to be honest with your partner if that's what you choose to do going forward. But moreover, you won't be able to make clear decisions if you can't
yeah.
acknowledge all facets of the situation, which includes the good ones.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, there are definitely good things about that a person experiences
Yeah.
in an affair, and I can only imagine how hard it must be for people to acknowledge that and to also let go of that,
Yeah,
you know
totally. Or not let go of it, or trust
or
that
not, right?
it's something that they want to pursue, or make the decision that they don't want to stay in their marriage or their partnership. And
Hmm.
things may not work out with their affair partner. But what the affair sometimes helps people see is, I have a clearer sense of what I prefer in a relationship at this point. It's not happening in my marriage. And I choose to end that. And we'll see what happens in the future, but I know that I
Yes.
can hold space for the kind of relationship that I want to occur for me.
Yeah.
Or I can take what I learned from my affair and bring that back to my marriage and invest myself in my marriage in a completely different way. So
Hmm.
there's so many different possible like outcomes, quote
Yeah.
unquote. So
Oh,
many different ways to digest the information you receive from engaging in an affair, so many different ways to be the person you were being in the affair in your current primary relationship or in future relationships.
hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, for sure. So tell us more. I want to hear some of the specific highlights of what the roadmap looks like for the member of the couple that has been cheated on and the member of the couple that's had the affair. What are the highlights of that journey for each party?
So first of all, my approach to all of this roadmap is that you take it together. So, unlike some programs out there, or even some therapists out there that would specifically turn to one partner, either it's for the hurt partner or for, I definitely see it as a journey rather than, like a unilateral type of forgiveness that one has to do and the other one has to rebuild the other partner's trust. I mean, definitely one, I talk about forgiveness, but it's all done as a journey for both partners. And the journey starts first of all with just understanding the basics of infidelity, because I don't think that when people get married they want to think about that, which makes a lot of sense,
Yeah.
right? You know,
Yeah.
you're getting married, you're hopeful. You have usually, if this is your first marriage, or first relationship, or first, significant relationship, you will tend to be more naive, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But the tendency is to believe that infidelity is never going to happen. And if it will happen, then that's the end of the relationship. How many people tell themselves, oh, if you cheat on me, you're gone, right? So I talk to people a lot in the beginning about the fundamentals of infidelity, understanding the infidelity, their potential to heal as a couple. I don't think any couple can heal from this. There's definitely certain things that you want to pay attention to as you're trying to heal, and there are ways to increase your potential to heal. Um, I
And what are
talk.
some of those?
So I would say, for example, the hurt partner's ability to look uh, at their partner through a more holistic lens and what they can trust. So many times I'll hear from hurt partners that, you know, he is a liar or she is a liar. I'm saying he just because it's comfortable, but it's definitely I've seen,
Equal
I've seen it happen.
opportunity.
Oh yes, 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 yes. So one partner will say, the hurt partner will say, he is a liar. I can't believe one word that comes out of his mouth, or sometimes they'll actually say it to their partner. And then I talk to them about being able to tell me what can you trust?
Yeah.
You know? For example, can you trust that your partner is going to be a good father? That he is a good father, that he is a good provider, that he is a good friend to you, that he will support you if, and many times I get yes, 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 yes. And so the infidelity becomes just one part of trust. It's not everything.
Hmm.
And so your ability to expand the lens and to look at your partner through this lens, through this richness of relationship will increase your ability to heal for sure.
I love that. And I think that's such an important tool, or at least thing to keep in mind, just in terms of creating more happiness in our romantic relationships in general.
Oh yeah, right. Seeing
Yeah.
everything in perspective.
Yeah. When we
Nothing
look at the
always happens or
flaws,
never happens, and
right. Right. Yeah. And when we look, when we focus on flaws, we only see flaws. When we
so
look for
true.
the whole picture, when we look for the good in another person, we'll see more of that.
Oh yes, that's actually the Gottmans call it the positive perspective versus the negative perspective of a
Sure.
relationship.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Um,
keep going. Your framework, your roadmap.
so I talk to people about that, and then we also talk about support system. We all need support, and like I mentioned before, people find themselves very lonely. So I talk to them about how they can build support system around them of people that are not going to be judgmental yet they'll have at least two people around them to turn to, because only turning to a therapist makes it, you're very dependent on the
Mm.
therapist, and
Hmm.
sometimes therapists are not, they're not 911, so so and not always
Thank you for
available.
pointing that out.
uh, yes, right,
Yeah. Yeah.
so but not only because of that, but just because I think that we all need support, we all need community around us,
Hmm.
and it's a way to do that. um What else? I talk to people how to talk to their kids, whether they should talk to kids. Sometimes
Yeah.
kids overhear something. And
Hmm.
so they ask questions. They'll see mom crying, dad. So how do you talk to kids about that? So this is just, the essential parts. And then we start the roadmap. Um, in the road, so the whole thing is quite linear, but this is a disclaimer. I don't think anything in life is linear. So when I say step 1, step 2, step 3, I tell people sometimes it is step 1, but sometimes step 1 you'll have to do throughout, or sometimes
Right.
you'll have to go back and do, so it's not very as linear as I like it to be. But so just bear that in mind as I explain.
Let me pause and say thank you for
Okay.
pointing that out too. I mean, I think, I'm sure we both deal with this a fair amount. People come to us because they're in crisis, they're in pain, they want change, they don't know how to make change, and they want it to happen as quickly as possible so they can stop feeling the
Mhm.
discomfort they're feeling as quickly as possible.
Yes.
And it doesn't you can't just press the magic button. You can't just do the 5 steps in order and everything's cool like 8 weeks and we're all good. It's not quite like that. It's
Mm,
developing new capacities, new practices, new ways of thinking and being in the world, new ways of considering others. And it's wonderful work, but it isn't linear work.
no, no. And I think we probably think the same because we come from the same, you know, uh, um, framework of thought. I come from the marriage and family therapy, which is mostly systemic thinking. And maybe I should explain that a little bit. So we don't necessarily look at um, we don't look to diagnose problems. Rather, we look at relationships and patterns, and we look at how a certain pattern is kind of fed by different things that happen around it, by the context. And we want to interrupt that context. We want to interrupt actually that pattern.
Mhm.
So it's a level that I believe is a little bit of deeper than what people are used to in work. And so that's why many times it's really not linear.
Right.
Which is
And it has the
good.
potential for like the most profound impact, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
that stays because you're not changing things on the surface. I can always tell people, stop this, try that, do this, do that. Um, I'm not sure that, sometimes it helps, but
Yeah.
it's not a real significant change.
Yeah. Totally.
Yes. So so the next steps are kind of more linear. So the first thing that I check with a couple is how the affair ended, or how the infidelity ended, because it's not always an affair. Sometimes it can be an exchange of messages with an ex, sometimes it can be porn, sometimes it can be being on a site, porn site, or dating site, or something like that. So the first thing I check is whether it stopped, and if it was an affair, or if it was a relationship, because sometimes people don't want to call it an affair, and I'm okay with that. But if there wasn't a relationship with the same person, then whether, first of all, did it end and how it ended? How it ended tells me a lot about how to continue from that point. So I ask people about, does it feel like it ended properly? Tell me how you ended it. And if we need, we will come up with some ideas and things that the person will have to do in order to end it properly. But it's not so much me telling you what to do, it's having both partners collaborate on how they feel it needs to be ended.
Hmm.
And this is, I think, where probably a lot of my referrals um, out happen, is when I feel that the affair may have ended properly, and I'm using my quoting fingers, but it hasn't really ended for the person. So there are still feelings involved, especially when there has been a relationship. I don't believe that you can just one day decide that, boom, I'm not going to contact this person and just be okay. Although you might, to your spouse, you will say, I'm okay, I'm done with this. But it's very hard to just put, a full stop and move on.
Yeah.
So this is where I probably will ask to speak with the partner, to learn more about what they're going through, if they're okay, And I guess this is where I would, if they're not okay, I will refer to, someone that does work exactly like you do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I see this a lot. I see people who, feel tremendous pressure to do the right thing, to save their marriage, to, kind of like find the solution, quote unquote. And what this often means is that they don't make clear decisions about ending the affair or the outside relationship. They kind of fast forward over what they're thinking and feeling in an effort to kind of quote unquote do right by their spouse or do right for their spouse or partner.
Yes.
And on the one hand, like, sure, that's an admirable impulse, it's an understandable impulse, but you can't fast forward and skip over figuring out what's really true for you. And I mean, I think this is related to something that you just said. I think it's important for people to know that you can choose clearly to end an affair and still be really sad about doing so and still have feelings for your affair partner, but also be pretty darn sure that you really want it to end and really want to work on your relationship with your spouse or your primary
Oh, thank
partner.
you for saying that. This is
Yeah.
so important
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
people to understand. It's not either or, it's both
Yeah.
and.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to add, though, is sometimes being really sad about ending an affair for the sake of working on your marriage or whatever, like anything like that, sometimes that's a sign that you didn't make a clear decision and you weren't really honest with yourself about what you wanted. Sometimes there is work that you need to do by yourself before you can just jump into, well, I'm going to like put the affair behind me and make my marriage better again. So
Yeah.
that's the other piece of it. But to the earlier point, ending a relationship that meant something to you can be really sad. It's a form of loss. You may have to like do your grieving for that relationship.
Yes, absolutely. And, looking at it from the other side and sitting with a hurt partner and seeing many hurt partners actually looking at their betraying or partners that have been unfaithful uh going through this, it's very hard. It's
Yeah.
very, very hard to
Yeah.
see and so I get that many partners that have been unfaithful don't want to show these feelings
Right.
because they understand, that's very hurtful. So I can only imagine how hard it is to be in that position, trying to heal your partner as you're trying to heal yourself, but you cannot say that you are
Yep.
healing yourself, right?
Yeah.
So it's a tough place to be in.
Yeah.
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 So this is basically what I do when I talk about ending an affair. And then we go on to talking about transparency.
Yeah.
A big, a very not problematic, but tough conversation. So I talk to people about their transparency about what happened, and this is many times, when all the things come out, like I got the trickle truth, I got, or I was gaslighted for months and I was traumatized and re-traumatized and re-traumatized. And so we talk about the importance of transparency and how it damages when you're saying half truth or you're giving a little bit of the truth, and how damaging it is versus how much do you as the hurt partner really want to know, because there is some information there that's going to scar you forever and ever. And do you really, really want to know those things, or you just want your partner to know that you have that question? And many partners ask me, should I tell? You know, he's been asking me about sex. He's been asking me about positions. He's been asking me, should I tell? And I say, don't you be the judge of that. If you're asked, you should probably answer. But then I turn to the hurt partner and I say, do you really want to know this? You
Yeah.
know, let's say that you know exactly what positions, let's say that you know exactly what they did, how many times, in what hotel. Let's say that you get this information. What's going to happen next? What's, the next day? How is that going to look like for you? So I work with the hurt partner on this, but I tell the partner that was unfaithful, if you are asked about this, please do not be the one telling your partner, oh, I don't want to tell you because just going to scar you. Just just answer the question if you're
Mhm.
asked.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, so we talk about transparency. We talk about transparency today. What are you experiencing today? As far as transparency, do you feel like you're going crazy because you became this snoopy person that you've never been before? And do you need more transparency? Do you need less transparency? Do you feel that your privacy has been invaded? We raise those things, we plan, we come up with a transparency plan that honors the experience, and you may not need it in a year, but for now is what you're going to use. We also talk about remorse, which is one of the biggest things that I like to talk or help my couples with. Most people, I think, when they think about remorse, they think about regret, saying I'm sorry. And so many times I hear, he said I'm sorry so many times, but I still don't think he really, really is remorseful. And so I talk about how remorse is much more than I'm sorry, and how you can express it and when you should express it. So I go on and on all about that. And I also help people implement the remorse and not just say, okay, you just need to be more remorseful, but actually give them pointers and how to be and how to do that, and work with them through that. So that's, I guess, the first phase of the healing,
Mhm.
where they stabilize the crisis, where, they go from having very intense feelings, conflicting feelings of, I love you and I hate you at the same time. you know, uh, I
How
need a
could this have
hug
happened?
and get away from me.
Yeah.
They go from this
Yeah.
to being a little more stable. And this is where I start the second phase.
Hmm.
Yeah. And the second phase is all about reconnecting, and hearing the pain. I think one of the hardest things that I find is for unfaithful partners to stay present when their hurt partner is expressing their pain.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's so probably most of the couples that I've seen, um, when they are met with their partner's pain, whether it's expressed in a nice way, and whether it's expressed in a very intense, critical way, in most of the cases, they will become defensive, or they will be stuck in their shame
Mhm.
and withdraw
Right.
from the conversation and look as if they don't care, but inside there's a war going on
Yeah.
of shame, self-loathing, so I help them understand, first of all, that the pattern, and then I give them tools to change that. And we actually practice that, and they see that they can talk about the infidelity without getting so triggered to the point where the conversation cannot continue.
Mhm. Yeah.
Or they can
Yeah.
actually get, the hurt partner can feel heard, can feel understood, can feel like she is not crazy, he is not crazy. So this is what we do. And then we go a little bit deeper into looking at the meanings and the motives for the infidelity. I think that's an important stage, a dangerous one, because it has the danger of sounding like giving the unfaithful partner an opportunity to give excuses, but that's absolutely not. And this is why I do this with the couples, and I don't just let them do it on their own. because
Yes.
of that because of that you may ask someone, why did you do that? And then they're going to tell you why, and then you're going to say, oh, you're blaming me, or you're blaming
Yeah.
their relationship, and that turns into a horrible conversation that's very, very hard to recover from.
Sure. Yeah.
So I make sure that we don't have these conversations. And then once there's an understanding of the meanings and the motives, is when they're going to be ready to push a restart button
Mm-hmm.
on the relationship, basically, ending relationship one and starting relationship two with the same person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that requires some preparation. It's not just, okay, let's close that ugly chapter and start a new one. But wait a second, before we close that chapter, can we honor what, the experience that you just had, this earthquake that you just experienced, and really think about what you want in the future. So we do that. We come up with a very detailed plan. We come up with a relationship agreement, and then we push the restart button.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, one of the last steps before we end. The last thing that I do with a couple is give them a maintenance plan, because many times, as when the program ends, people get very anxious about, oh no, what are we, we were good, we going to stay like this? Is this going to, can you see us? Can we continue? And I say, usually there's no need for me to see you. I'm going to leave you with a maintenance plan so you can have sessions with each other without me. And you'll do perfectly fine. And if anything happens, you can always contact me. But usually my experience has been that people usually don't need more of those sessions. I didn't mention, but sometimes we'll have to attend to regaining intimacy between the couple. Sometimes we'll have to attend to post trauma. And these are two things that I address if they come up. I
Mhm.
ask about them, and if they are present, then we'll address them as well.
Oh, that's great.
That's the roadmap.
Yeah. The meandering path that sounds like a straight line when we talk about it here.
Yeah.
What are some of the signs that couples are ready to begin this process?
um, so I would say probably not immediately after the revelation. Usually the couples that I think are ready for this type of process are those that are quite, they've understood that they want to stay together.
So
They
they've
don't have
already
to.
kind of made that decision.
Yes and no.
Okay.
They have to be more inclined to staying together. They don't
Yeah.
have to. There are no conditions. So
Mhm.
forgiveness is not a condition. Actually, it's something that we work towards.
Mhm. Mhm.
Willingness to forgive is not a condition. Um, you know, for sure, wanting to stay is not a condition. These are things that we can work towards. But definitely, when a couple is, they know that they have a rich life together, that they have a lot to lose if they end the relationship. Couples that are really, really connected and love each other, um, and know that, we've been together for such a long time, or we are so committed to this relationship. These are the couples that probably are the best fit for my program. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. So it sounds like what you're saying is like you don't have to be sure that you want to stay together, but you have to be sure that you want to explore the possibility of staying together.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that's a really important distinction.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that for couples that are not there yet, it's perfectly fine to not be there. And this is where I refer them to probably couples therapy or some kind of work that is a little more open and flexible,
Mhm. Yeah.
because they have to make that decision. And then once they're ready, they can come on to the program.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
We all kind
Mhm.
of help people at different points in their journey. And specialize in different kinds of situations or
Yes. And I
dynamics.
actually wanted to learn a little bit more about, because it's so interesting, the way that you work with people. Um I almost like supporting them in those very difficult decisions. So I wonder if, let's say, I have a couple, and I do talk to the person that has been unfaithful, and they're telling me, there has been an affair, there were feelings involved, um and so uh I ended the affair, but I feel that they need more support, or they are not sure, what to do with all of this.
Yeah.
Or sometimes, there have been cases where they ended the affair but continued it
Right.
behind the scenes. They
Totally.
just, yeah.
Ended in air quotes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even, sometimes they believe that they really ended it, but they're still looking at pictures. They're still, stalking the person on social media. They're still sending little messages. Maybe they're not meeting and having, a relationship, but they are there. They haven't left.
Yeah.
And so usually I would probably refer someone like this, to you. But
Yeah.
I'm interested in how you work with people, like,
Yeah.
in that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, without a specific example at hand, it's kind of hard
Yeah.
to, um, yeah, well, I mean, basically, like, I want to know what's going on with them. I'm not there to address the dynamic in the relationship. I'm there to find out what the heck is going on with them and to help them back away from, like, what do I think I should do for other people? How am I hurting or not hurting this other person in my life? But, like, what am I thinking and feeling?
Mhm.
And that is kind of the essence of everything. Like, our thoughts generate our feeling state. Our feeling state gives us the capacity to act in certain ways or to not act in certain ways. When we take actions or refrain from taking actions, that creates outcomes in our lives. So, in other words, if we believe that we should stay married, well, that's very different from, like, I really want to be married to my partner.
Mhm.
I help people get clear on what they're thinking about their, say, primary partnership or their marriage. I help them get clear on what they're thinking about the affair partner. And I help them start to make decisions about what they want to do about these things. And
Okay.
decisions, I mean, we tend to mystify decision making in our society. We think that, like, we never have enough information to make a choice, or since we can't predict the future, we don't know what we should do now.
Mm.
And especially when it comes to romantic love, we have all of these crazy beliefs about what it means to have certain feelings. So if, for instance, the example of, like, if I miss my affair partner, that means that I should still be with them. Well, not necessarily. It doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily mean that. But since we have all of these things so jumbled up socially and culturally, a big part of what I do is just help people, like, untie the knots. Like, what do I really think about this aspect of my life? And life meaning, like, what do I think about these aspects of my relationships? But what this often leads to is stepping back and taking account of one's life as a whole.
Mhm.
Because sometimes, not always, but sometimes dissatisfaction in relationships is a reflection of dissatisfaction with ourselves and a disconnection
Mhm.
from ourselves and malaise about our lives in general. And we kind of, like, put this on our partners, so to speak, or try
Right.
to resolve this through romantic drama. And of course, like, the romantic relationships are important, but sometimes it's also about other things. So I step back and I try to figure out, I don't try to figure out, I help the client figure out
Right.
what's important for me here. This is a transitional moment in my life. This can be an inflection point in my life. How do I want to live going forward? Who do I want to be going forward? How do I
Mm.
want to live out my love life? What does it mean to be honest with myself? What does it mean to be honest with other people I care about?
Yes. Where have you been when I needed you?
I'm right here. I'm on the other
I
end of
can
the
think
Zoom.
of so many people, yeah, that can benefit from this non-judgmental. It's like you're just putting a mirror and you have Windex and you say, let's clear it. Let's clear it again.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
that's a really important point. So I have a lot of people who come to me and they're like actively cheating, whatever that means to them. It means a lot of different things to different people. And they're like, I feel terrible about myself. I'm a bad person. I know I should stop doing what I'm doing right now. And here's the deal. Like you may be doing something that you don't want to continue doing. You may want to sort your life out so that you're living in accordance with your values. But you can't shame yourself into making sustainable positive changes. It just doesn't work. And it feels terrible in the short term.
yes, and if you want to stay in your relationship and help your partner heal, if you're coming from a place of shame, you're helpless.
Yeah,
It's like your hands are tied. There's
true.
no way to help anyone if you are not able to have high self-esteem, right? It's the ability to understand that you're flawed and still hold yourself in high regard and think that you are good. And if you don't have that, so I think that's similar to what you said before, that it's not necessarily if you had an affair, if you engaged in some type of infidelity, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are bad, not a liar, or it doesn't say anything about yourself. It means that you engaged in something that potentially most people are going to look at it as a negative thing, and maybe yourself as well, but it doesn't necessarily connect to your character, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that that's what most people believe,
Yep.
that cheaters is how they call them, right? As if there's a name for this gender. Cheaters is they all have that flaw in their
Right.
character. It's like a
Right.
character flaw.
Right.
But that cannot be, and this is not something that I made up. This is actually something that Esther Perel says. If that were the case, if we were really, if people that engage in infidelity had this, flaw or had some kind of diagnosis, then we would be probably talking around 2% of population. But, when we look at the rates of infidelity, it's probably around 50%. So it cannot be that 50% of all humans have something, a problem that we can diagnose.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that must mean that it's not necessarily connected to your character. And once people understand that and they walk out of their shame room and tap more into maybe feeling guilty is okay, but at least when you feel guilty, if you're able to come from a place of self, holding yourself in high regard, you are going to be able to help your partner. So this is so important that you're able to talk to people about shame. It's
Yeah.
super helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, just one final thing on this. I think it's so important for all of us to remember, whether we're ever on, either end of infidelity or not, is that we are all imperfect creatures. And that doesn't make us bad. Doesn't make
That's
us wrong. It doesn't make us flawed. It's just the nature of our human existence.
Yeah. Sometimes I say that. I mean, even just you saying that now made me like breathe. Like it's so, releasing to know that you can be flawed, you can make mistakes, you can fix your mistakes.
Yeah,
That's like
absolutely.
we're all flawed. I don't know anybody perfect. Do you?
No, no. And I really like that point. I mean, sometimes, having an affair, quote unquote, can be a big, dramatic, unpleasant, difficult, challenging moment in our lives. And it can also be this tremendous opportunity for us to clarify what's truly right for us and to, come back into or realign with our sense of integrity and, shed old habits or identities or practices that really weren't serving us. And, it can be like such a catalyst for transformation and growth. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yes. And I think that probably we talk about a very specific type of, infidelity, usually the one that happened once or, even more than once, but it's very specific. I think I should mention that definitely there are people that are not that.
No,
there are
that's true.
serial cheaters.
Yes.
Don't really think that they're doing anything wrong.
Totally.
There are people who cheat who feel that they're entitled to that.
Yeah.
So it's not that I say you should always stay, or it's or that it's always a case where the person just made a mistake. Sometimes the person didn't just make a mistake. They've been making that mistake for many many times, regardless of what their partner is going through. So we're not talking about those cases, right?
Well, I mean, I kind of yes and no. I mean, here's the thing, like, one of my orienting principles is that like humans are neutral circumstances. Like we get to decide what we think about other humans' behavior. And when I work with people who have been cheated on, which I do, like some of them do have partners that cheat with no compunctions repeatedly, and they lie repeatedly. And the thing that I always work on with the partner that's been cheated on is like, look, this sucks. Like you may not like this at all. But at this point, you've got the information in front of you. There's a pattern of behavior that's been established. You've tried all of these things to make changes in your relationship. And as painful as this is, you have an opportunity in front of you. What do you want to do? And it's not as simple as just like, well, I want to leave, or well, I want to stay. I mean, it's hard. And it takes time to work through all the things and to shift directions or whatever. But no matter what another person does, we always have the choice as to how we respond.
Yes.
And that
sometimes it's not okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You don't have to stick with anything. I mean, sometimes people like say that I'm like encouraging cheating or condoning cheating. And it's not really like that. It's just that I'm offering healing to all parties involved in a complex and often painful dynamic. But when I work with people who have been cheated on, it's not like I'm saying, oh, cheating's great. Cheating's fine. Like, don't worry about it. Like, you should be fine with this. That is not my perspective at all.
Yes.
It's the same approach with the person in that position. It's like, well, what do you want? What's right for you here? How do you find the wherewithal and the courage to believe that it's okay for you to honor your needs and preferences? Whatever those are, whether it's stay or be like, buzz off, like we're done here. Yeah. Obviously, I'm speaking crassly. The buzz off, we're done here part.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's I guess whenever someone works with infidelity, people want to know, are you, for or against it? As if anything is that, either or.
Right.
I think I'm definitely against it. I wouldn't want to be cheated on. And I can see the damage that happens. I definitely get to see the damage on a daily basis. Like I said, I see London after the Blitz every time.
Yeah.
So it's very hard for me to say, to be, partial about it. I think I'm very much against it, but sometimes this is the slap in the face earthquake type of situation that couples need in order to wake up. And sometimes if they do the work and if they heal from this and stay together, but do the work, not just stay together and develop mountains of resentment towards each other, but really heal as a couple, they'll come out the other side usually much better than they were before the infidelity. And so I guess that's the only advantage to it, really the only one I can see.
Well, I think that's a lovely thing to point out for people who are listening and are wondering, like, can our relationship survive after this?
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that, when people ask me that, I say, I see it all the time. I really am not making this up. And the more I work with the people, the more I see success. And it's probably because I do work with a select, with a very specific, when people are ready to heal is when they come to me. So I don't see the other cases. So I don't know if I can be completely fair about this and say, yes, absolutely, you can always heal. No, there are certain things need to happen for sure. But
But the
once
potential
you're
is there.
there,
Yeah.
yes, you
Yeah.
can heal, and you could probably, I'm going to be careful, but you could probably be better than you were before.
Yeah.
But that takes some work, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
worthwhile things do,
Absolutely.
don't they?
Yes.
Oh. Well, I think that's a lovely note to end on. Will
Mhm.
you tell everyone who's listening where they can learn more about you and your work again?
Sure. So I think everything is on my website, iditsharoni.com. I have a podcast that I think that people can really learn about me and about, they can actually get some tips on different things that are related to infidelity and relationships in general. And I have a Facebook group for people that are in the aftermath of infidelity and want to stay. Emphasis on want to stay, because that's very different from other, groups out there. We're not allowing shaming of anyone that decides to stay. So I have that group. It's called "It's Okay to Stay." So that's probably the best two places to find information about me.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Oh, same here. Thank you. Thank you for having
Awesome.
me.
Oh, you're welcome. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard today, we hope you'll head on over to iTunes to rate and review the show. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to Your Secret is Safe with Me with Dr. Marie Murphy. Make sure to click subscribe to get updates on our latest episodes.